Sometimes the most influential creative blueprints, the actual DNA of a masterpiece, they aren't found in a museum or some famous celebrated work. Nope. They're often tucked away in these forgotten corners, in overlooked projects that were actually groundbreaking experiments. And today, we're going to uncover one of the most important blueprints in modern comics, and it's hidden inside the story of a hero you might barely even remember. All right, let's get into it.
And that's really the big question here, isn't it? We're going to see how the kind of obscure adventures of Captain Britain became this secret proving ground for one of the industry's most legendary writers, the one and only Alan Moore. Believe me, this isn't just a history lesson. It's a story about how great ideas get tested in the dark before they step out and change the world.
So to really get this, we got to travel back in time to the 1970s, to a very specific place, Marvel, UK. This was the British offshoot of the American giant, and it had this unique, kind of scrappy identity. And it was that environment, a mix of tight budgets and big ambitions, that created the perfect storm for a creative revolution.
This timeline really tells a story of its own. Marvel UK kicks off in '72, and they're basically just reprinting American comics. But by '76, you can see they're getting restless. They want their own thing, and boom! Captain Britain is born. The really big shifts, though, happen in '79, when a British team finally takes the reins, and then again in '81 with that major redesign. You can just feel this growing need to make the hero truly their own.
So before all the chaos and the darkness set in, who was this Captain Britain? Well, honestly, he was a little quaint. He was a perfectly fine superhero, but you could tell he was cooked up in the US for a British audience. He was basically a blank slate, this standard-issue hero who had no idea he was about to be put through the creative ringer of a lifetime. And this just shows you the change that was already in the air. On one side, you've got the original 1976 version, and on the other, the 1981 redesign. Way sleeker, more powerful, definitely more modern. It was a clear signal that they wanted to level up the character. But this was just a costume change. The real change, the one that would echo for decades, was still to come. And here it is. This is the moment. All that history, all that setup, it was about to collide with a creative force that would change absolutely everything. A young, hungry writer named Alan Moore was given the keys to Captain Britain. And let's be clear, he had zero interest in just telling another superhero story. He wanted to take the whole thing apart, piece by bloody piece. Look, this wasn't just a case of a new writer taking over. When Moore arrived, it was like the reality of the comic book itself just buckled. He didn't treat the character and his world like a toy box, no. He treated it like a machine that needed to be dismantled, examined, and pushed right to its absolute breaking point. This was the start of a creative apocalypse.
So how'd he do it? He created this, the Fury. Just read that definition. It's not just another monster, it's a concept. At a time when villains wanted to rule the world, the Fury had this terrifyingly simple, logical purpose. Find anyone with superpowers and wipe them from existence. It was a walking, talking argument against the entire idea of a superhero, the ultimate deconstruction tool.
And the process Moore laid out was just horrifying. The Fury doesn't fight, it hunts. It shows up, it learns, and then it carries out a systematic purge. No survivors. This brought a level of genuine existential dread into what was until then a pretty standard comic. Captain Britain wasn't just up against a bad guy. He was fighting the literal end of his genre.
And he lost. The deconstruction wasn't a metaphor. Moore took it all the way. The Fury found Captain Britain, and it killed him. The hero of the story was dead, and for a second, it felt like the experiment was over. The machine was completely and utterly broken. But see, here's the thing, and this is so important. Moore's goal was never just about destruction. That was only phase one. What came next was the second, and arguably more important half of the equation, the reconstruction. This is where he didn't just break a hero, he created a method.
So yeah, he gets brought back thanks to some comic book magic from Merlin and Roma. But he didn't just snap back to life as the same old Captain Britain. No way. The experience of being hunted down, killed, and reborn, it left a scar. He came back cynical, traumatized, and a whole lot more interesting. He was, in every sense of the word, forever changed.
And this transformation wasn't just happening to the character, it was happening with the creators too. This quote really gets to the heart of the crucial partnership between Moore and the amazing artist Alan Davis. As Moore was building his method, they were building this incredible synergy. Moore actually started writing less, trusting Davis to tell the story with his art. This wasn't just Moore's blueprint, it was the training ground where two masters learned how to dance.
Okay, so this is it. This is the whole point. This dark, weird, and often forgotten run on Captain Britain wasn't some one-off story. It was the essential foundation. It was the blueprint that Moore would use, refine, and perfect in his most famous, industry-shattering works like Miracleman and Swamp Thing.
So let's actually break that blueprint down. Step 1. Respect what came before. Don't throw out the quaint history. Use it. Step 2. Break the character. Tear them down physically, mentally, existentially. Use a tool like the Fury to do it. Step 3. Introduce real, terrifying stakes, dark, apocalyptic themes that make the hero question their own purpose. And finally, the most important part, rebuild them, not as they were, but as something new, something more. That's the formula, and it was born right here.
And when you put it all side by side, the connection is it's undeniable. The tactic of deconstruction and reconstruction in Captain Britain becomes the perfected method in Miracleman and Swamp Thing. What was apocalyptic horror in one becomes genre-defining in the others. The result went from creating a single, more complex hero to creating characters that changed the entire industry. Captain Britain was the brilliant, messy prototype for the masterpieces that followed.
So at the end of the day, why should you care about this kind of forgotten story? Because it's so much more than that. It's Alan Moore's raw, unfiltered creative blueprint. It's a front row seat to watching two geniuses, Moore and Davis, find their voices together. It's a fantastic, complete story that's been unjustly overlooked. And honestly, it's a great way to understand the heavy themes of his later work in a slightly more straightforward package.
Which of course brings up the obvious question. If this story is so foundational, so important, why isn't it mentioned in the same breath as Watchmen? How did this incredible blueprint get so buried? Well, the reasons are, complicated, and they have a lot more to do with the real world than with the story itself.
The short answer is, things got messy. Moore's departure from the book was not a clean break. There were issues with late payments and some pretty serious legal drama between Marvel and Moore over his work on Miracleman. At the exact same time, his star was absolutely exploding over at DC with Swamp Thing. All of that, plus years of tangled-up copyright issues, made the story really hard to reprint. The blueprint was essentially locked in a vault for a long, long time.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. The story of Captain Britain is this powerful reminder that genius doesn't always show up fully formed in a bestseller. A lot of the time, it's developed in the margins, on these weird little projects people overlook. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other blueprints, what other forgotten masterpieces are out there right now, just waiting for us to find them?